Hi guys. Today we'll be looking at self-discipline. You know, normally we wake up with the best of intentions every day. We wake up maybe at 5 a.m. We say our prayers, read something motivational. We go to the gym, and then we say to ourselves, no more excuses, right? You know, Day in, day out, we keep up, and then suddenly life happens. Motivation starts to fade, and all those goals start to slip. And then we tell ourselves the same story over and over again. I need more self discipline. Does that sound familiar? Because when you're not able to do what you say you want to do, usually it's because you're not, we blame self discipline. We say it's because we're not disciplined enough to be able to do those things. But what if I told you that that story is wrong? We've all been fed a lie for far too long. We've all been conditioned to believe the lie for decades and decades that, self discipline or growth generally is about force. But because when you do what you say you will do, there will be growth. So to grow, you need self discipline. And self discipline is about forcing yourself to do what you need to do. Well, I'm here to tell you that is actually the wrong approach. That if you don't do what you want, it's because you're lazy or you're undisciplined. That's not true. The truth is that the system you're using is actually the problem. You know, you are not the problem. It's your system that's the problem. There's nothing wrong with you. Stop blaming yourself. Stop beating yourself up about all the things you've not been able to bring yourself to do. Those things are not the problem. But the system that you're using is the problem. You see, your brain, our brain, the human brain, isn't wired to follow willpower that we all try to use in executing our goals. Willpower, sheer willpower. Our brains are wired to follow patterns, pure and simple. And if you break those patterns, there's no amount of motivation that will save you, that will fix them. You don't need motivation to brush your teeth in the morning, for instance. Or do you need motivation to eat? Those things come naturally. When you wake up and it's time to brush your teeth, you just go and brush your teeth. You've ritualized them. You've turned them into a ritual. They've become automatic. All right? So it's not about you doing those things. It's about you being the person that does those things. And that's how you build anything that you want to build. Because at the end of the day, we are human beings. We are not human doings. So you have to be the sort of person that will do the sort of things that you want to do. So the reason why you're not able to achieve all those goals is because you are still trying to do and you're not trying to be. So that's the trick. You have to become the person, the sort of person that will do those things. Do you get what I'm trying to tell you right now? All right. Let me give you a little example about a guy called James Clear. Now, if you've heard about the book Atomic Habits, it was James Clear that wrote that book. Is the author of uh, the most influential books on habit change today. All right. Now, before James Clear started writing bestsellers, James was just a college baseball player, average guy, recovering, and he was recovering from a serious head injury. You know, he had a head injury, and to go back to playing baseball, he needed to rebuild his life, from scratch, physically, mentally, and emotionally. It's not easy recovering from an injury as serious as head injury. So he needed to rebuild his life back. You know, at first, like most people, he tried to set goals. He tried to get fit. He tried to be more productive. He tried to study more. But those things never stuck. He realized one day something really, really, really powerful. He realized that every action that you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. So he needed to retrace his steps and look at all the actions he had been taking and all of that. And he found out that they were not working because he was chasing goals like we all do most of the time. We find out that most of the time we're chasing goals. We're telling ourselves, okay, I want to. So that is the wrong approach, and that is the wrong way you should speak if you are becoming and not trying to become. If you would become instantly, not trying to become, right? Like I said, we are human beings, not humans trying to be, right? So what James Clear did was this. He stopped chasing goals. Now, he didn't say anymore that I want to write a book. He said, I am a writer. He didn't say, I want to get healthy. Guess what he said? Yes, you're correct. I'm the kind of person that doesn't miss workouts. Do you know what happened there? It was a change in identity. James Clear had an identity change. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you is this. Your problem is not your inability to meet your goals. Your problem is who you are right now, who you believe you are right now. So you do not believe that you... Okay, so when we were young, they used to ask us this question. What do you want to be when you grow up? Now you're grown. Are you that person right now? Or you're still trying to be? Now you see, it's not about you chasing to become something in the future. You see, because you see, the future will never come. The day that we are always going to have every day is today and today and today and today. The future will always be in the future. So your goals will always be in the future, because when you say things like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a pharmacist, I want to be an engineer, I want to be whatever it is that you want to be. I want to be a social media influencer, I want to be this, I want to be that. You find out you wake up the next day and you're still saying that. So you will not be motivated, or your brain will not pattern for you, or your brain will not signal to you what you need to do instantly, because you are not that person. But for instance, now when you're hungry, your brain signals to you that you're hungry because you are the person that is hungry. When you want to go brush your teeth, your brain signals to you because you've already made it a part of your pattern to brush your teeth. I mean, we've been conditioned to brush our teeth we've set it in our brains as a pattern from when we were young. We're taught to brush our teeth. And every other thing that you've been taught since when you were young, those things come naturally to you. Taking your bath and whatnot. So your brain signals to you that it's time to do those things because you are that person, because those things have been in you. They've been instilled in you since when you were a child. But now, the person that you want to become, that person should do some certain things naturally. But because you are not that person yet, you find out that you are not able to do those things. So what is the solution? The solution, as James Clear also did, was he became that person instantly. He switched his identity. He changed from who he was to who he wanted to be. The identity shift, not self-discipline, changed everything. Now today, James Clear has helped millions of people change their lives. Not by pushing harder, but by becoming a different person. Now, this is the thing. Here's the thing. When you make that identity shift, you are still going to be falling bit by bit to the old patterns, but don't worry about that. Continue to say to yourself on a daily basis that this is who you are. Now, let me give you a personal example. I used to be a drinker and a smoker. I used to take alcohol. I used to smoke cigarettes a lot of cigarettes. I had an environment that reinforced such habits. I had friends, and the places that myself and those friends went to and all the things that we did continued to reinforce those habits. But my health couldn't take drinking or smoking anymore. So when I would go to visit the doctor, for a health challenge or anything I was facing, they would tell me, do you drink? They will ask me rather, do you drink? I'll say yes. Do you smoke? Yes. You need to stop immediately. Now, doctors were telling me that, and that if I didn't stop, that I risked the chance of damaging my health much further. Now, in me, I desire to stop those things. I desire to stop drinking, and I desire to stop smoking. But then I found out that my environment continued to reinforce those habits. I had the same group of friends, and we visited the same places daily, or at least every other day, or maybe 3 times in a week. It was constant, and then it was difficult. I mean, it was the normal thing. You're sitting down with your group of friends, and then the drinks start coming, and then the cigarettes start coming too. It was really bad that I would go as much as maybe when one store was out of cigarettes, I'll go in the middle of the night to go look for cigarettes in another store. You drive, risking your life to go look for cigarettes. That's how bad my addiction to nicotine was, and to drinking. But then I decided to set a different intention when things started getting bad for me, and I had a major accident, a head-on collision with a vehicle. I was looking at it that, okay, this is really not how I want to go out. Because if that accident had been more dangerous than that, probably I might have lost my life or taken somebody else's life. All because I was coming back from, a drunken binge and trying to go home, but I was not in my clear senses anymore. But deep down inside me, I knew this wasn't something I wanted to go on doing. It wasn't something I wanted to continue doing. So I decided to change who I was. I started listening to, material. I started, praying and all of that, and I started believing I was somebody else. And then I started saying those things. I started saying who I was. So when I hung out with those friends, so it's not about just upping, you don't just up and leave your friends like that, then where would you go to? You're not just going to meet new set of friends and start hanging out with them. I was in this life, so to stop it, the very first thing I needed to do was change my idea of who I was. I needed to change my self-concept. Who am I now? I am this person that doesn't smoke. My name is Babatunde. I don't drink. I don't smoke. So I started telling myself that. And then when I hung out with my friends, I will start telling them, I'll start speaking like this new person, and my ideas, not just when it comes to drinking and smoking, my ideas and every other thing started to change. I started, sounding like a hypocrite, sort of, because I was doing something, but I was saying something else, But I knew what I needed to become. So I kept saying those things, and I would forgive myself easily for still, doing a drink or two when I'm with my friends and all of that, But I set my intention very, very clearly. And then because I set my intention very, very clearly, I started becoming that person. My subconscious mind started accepting those things that I was saying. And then I started making different plans, the sort of plans that the person that doesn't drink and doesn't smoke and doesn't want to hang out with those friends anymore will do. Right? Because I didn't want to hang out with them anymore. Not because they were bad people or they were bad friends, but because of the things that they were doing. And they were not, I mean, it's not my responsibility to make them stop what they're doing. It's their responsibility to live their lives the way they want to live their lives. But it is my responsibility, majorly because it was damaging my health. It was my responsibility to stop those habits. So I decided to start saying those things to myself. Then my subconscious mind started accepting those things gradually. And then I started doing the things that the person I wanted to become would do. So as I started setting those intentions, God aligned my path, and then things started working out for me. And then things worked out for me to such an extent that I was literally lifted from that country into another country amongst a different set of people. So I was not able to do it by willpower. I was not able to do it by self-discipline, because when I tried to stop smoking, I couldn't stop smoking. It was just in my blood. But I needed, to start saying to myself, this is not who I am. So even while I was smoking, I knew that wasn't who I was, because I was saying to myself regularly, this is who I want to be. I don't drink. I don't smoke. This is who I am. This is who I am. We'll get to, in other videos, I'll tell you more about my identity shift, how I was able to totally shift from who I used to be to who I was. So I don't want to make this video too long, But using James Cleary as an example, okay, let me finish my own personal example. I was removed from the country where I had those friends, my country of birth, into another country, because my intentions aligned with God, or God's plan and God's principles and God's system. And I now started living a different life, and it was difficult for me to go back to that life, because the people that reinforced, the system that reinforced it, was no longer there. I was now in a different environment and a different system. So even when I tried, because the body still wanted those things. The body wanted nicotine. The body wanted alcohol. I would try to, bond with people. It just wasn't possible in this new environment. So I would take a few drinks, and all of a sudden I just stopped. The desire wasn't there anymore, because the environment wasn't very, very encouraging for that type of lifestyle. So I was successfully able to move from that lifestyle and those habits into new habits, because you see, the new environment that I was in, and I'll tell you the story someday, the new environment that I was in didn't support that lifestyle. So through my intentions and setting new intention, I manifested a new reality, which is what you need to do. You need to be a different person, not struggle to meet your goals. So the identity shift, coming back to James Clear, really helped him, and he didn't do it by, pushing harder. He did it by becoming somebody totally different. And that's what you need to do today, and that is the Profit Magic tip for today. What you need is identity and identity shift, not to continue to struggle to hit those goals or hit those targets. You need to become the person that already does them. So, and it's not just saying those things to yourself. You need to start feeling, just imagine yourself. How would you feel? Okay, so if you had achieved all your goals, and you have become that person, how would you feel? How would that person feel? Now, you need to imagine you were that person right now, and you were feeling the way that person will feel. This will help you. Feeling this way will help you. It will help your transformation. It will help you more to become that person that you say you want to become. And the universe will start to align with this new identity. God is no respecter of persons. His principles are universal. The joy of the Lord, the Bible says, the joy of the Lord is your strength. If you keep joyful, if you keep happy, because when you're beating yourself up for your inability to meet your goals, you're not happy, you're frustrated, right? So the frustration, the feeling of, dejected, you're feeling dejected and all of that because you're not able to meet your goals, will keep you further away from your goals. Beating yourself up for not being able to stop doing something that you say you want to stop doing, they are not going to help you meet those things faster. But being happy, being joyous, means that you are where you want to be, right? So I believe that if you reach this particular goal that you want, let's say you want to become the president of wherever it is that you want to become right now, you will feel happy, right? That is what will fulfill you. Whatever it is that you want to be, whoever it is that you want to become, if you are able to bring yourself emotionally to become that person right now, you'll find out that you will start to do the things that that person will do. And then gradually, the universe, earth, everybody, your reality will start to respond and obey this person that you have become. So guys, it's not about self-discipline. What you need is an identity shift. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next video.